Boom. All right, legends. So what have we got today? We've got David Icke on X is warning people like Tommy Robinson and the upcoming Freedom of Speech Festival. Was it 13th of September in London? David Icke is saying that Musk is moving in on the UK with Theo Vance AI Palantir controlled Cabal, and he's basically warning people that we're all being played by the big club. So let's get into that, but then let's look at some solutions. Boom again. Hello friends, I'm Chris THRALL. I'm a former Royal Marines Commando, and just trying to shed light really on what's going on, because there seems to be a lot of people that still don't get it yet, and we need some solutions, don't we, before this beautiful nation descends into further chaos. And just going to go to our Sun Tzu quote that we've been using lately. The problem is here, Sun Tzu saying, if you know the enemy and you know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. And I would say, and I know many of you would agree with me, I don't think we understand who the enemy is in this scenario, folks. And for those that are more for the more metaphysical amongst you, that could be someone quite close to home, couldn't it? So yeah, in no particular order, I've pulled up a few things to talk about, but as always, the good stuff's going to be at the end. If I can just say, we're going to have an awful lot of people watching. If you could like and subscribe, folks, click the notification bell. If I forget to say that, don't get subscribers, so I'm going to be saying that a few times. And just a quick one, if you want to come to the Arctic with me, the Arctic Circle in March, I'll be running another Arctic Legends expedition. We'll take all you need to be is moderately fit. You don't have to be, Iron Man or whatever. We're going to get you proficient on a pair of skis. We're going to get you going through the ice in ice-breaking drills and skiing from cabin to cabin across the beautiful Arctic tundra, I believe is the word. And I've got a fabulous team of former Royal Marine Commando mountain leaders to train you. So for those of you that missed out on the military experience or the Arctic warfare stuff, this is your chance. And you can see our base camp is pretty spectacular. So I won't say anything more than that, other than my email is in the info below on YouTube, or just go to my website, christhrall.com. There we go. Don't miss out. It's great fun, folks. Great fun. First week of March. So, right. Let's just start getting on with it. So that was David's tweet. I've done a bit of researching because it was this tweet here that prompted me to look this up. It's saying breaking, over 15,000 soldiers, British soldiers, have quit the army since Keir Starmer took over, refusing to serve a communist who shields, can't say that word on it, certainly can't, don't want to start saying that one, or I'll be saying an early doors, Do you agree with those soldiers? So it's, as usual on X, it's not quite as straightforward as it seems. That technically, yes, they have quit ahead of a potential civil war situation. But moreover, 15,000 have left, only 12,000 have joined. And this headline was actually from December of last year, just to give you some context. And what they're saying is, since Keir Starmer became Prime Minister, reports indicate 15,000 British military personnel have left the armed forces. During the same period, 12,000 joined. These reflect a broader recruitment and retention crisis, despite a 6% pay increase. And why would anyone want to leave the armed forces? Let's think of a few things, shall we? First off, the Northern Ireland, the battering of the Northern Ireland veterans. I'm not suggesting here, folks, that, if you commit a crime, you shouldn't be brought to justice. But I'm just questioning the nature of why it's all coming now, along with the SAS getting hammered on the BBC. And in addition, women joining our special forces and our elite forces. Absolutely no disrespect to the girls out there, but does that not reek of agenda? And also think how disenfranchising it is if, say, you're a Royal Marines Commando and you've undertook the toughest military infantry training in the world, and then suddenly it's thrown open to everybody. I'm picking my words here carefully. Obviously, there's women out there that could possibly pass that course. Nobody's passed it yet. But how does that make you feel as a bloke? Kind of, I don't know. Let me know in the comments, folks. You might completely disagree, but I would say it probably would. I think it would kind of deters the kind of, or brushes off the kind of elite forces bit. Anyway, let me know what you think. And then, of course, on top of that, you'd have to be asleep if you weren't aware of 9/11, would you? And who was like really behind that? Not what the brainwashing mainstream media told us, and which is just a tiny bit of research. I think is everyone aware of that now, or are there still people that think it was a guy on a cave on a kidney dialysis machine that brought down the whole of the United States and changed security policy the world over forever, and he did so without one recorded mobile phone call or one financial transaction. And all this has been noticed by Mr. Tucker Carlson, and he's certainly coming out and saying a lot, isn't he? Now, someone said the other day, Tucker Carlson, controlled opposition. Controlled opposition, folks, is people that for whatever reason, whether they're afraid to say what's becoming glaringly obvious to most people because they're worried about being called anti-this or anti-that, or it might be that they're getting paid, by Israel, for example, and so that they're hesitant to, lose their contract, so to speak. Remember the Israeli lobby in America is like one of the biggest, most powerful ones. And so, there's a lot of reasons why people can be controlled through the fear angle without actually being a bad person, if you know what I mean. But then, in addition, if they're not calling out two things, if they're not calling out the dark network, aka Cult of Sabbatean Frankists, what was it? George Carlin referred to them as the big club. If they're not calling out that, then yes, they're somehow controlled. And if they're not calling out the method that's being used to control us, which is energy, vibration, and frequency, which we're going to come and look at, then they're not helpful either. I'd say Tucker's doing a fair job of it, but feel free again to speak in the comments. Let's just see what he's saying to this gentleman. I'm not even going to use his name.
No, of course I didn't allege that, the Jews did it. I don't even know what that means. I think, in fact, saying things like that is a way to discredit real questions.
Right.
Like, we know, Benjamin Netanyahu on camera right after said this is a good thing because it brings the United States into a conflict that we've been involved in on an existential level for decades. He said that out loud. I'm not guessing, you can pull the tape. We know that a group of Israeli art students, who clearly were not art students, clearly some of them were aligned with Israeli intelligence, were arrested and held for quite some time in the United States before being released without charges. And we know that a group of them, again, I'm quoting an FBI document here, not the internet, filmed the attacks on 9/11, and I'm quoting, seemed to have foreknowledge of those attacks. Now, you were not allowed to follow up in any of this. Fox News did a series with Britt Hume and Carl Cameron, which many people have seen in a bootleg version on the internet, but they did it like within weeks, saying, what is this? There was an Israeli spy ring in the United States, and they clearly knew 9/11 was coming. This is Fox News. They pulled that under pressure. They pulled that off the internet. It's not searchable in any Fox News archive, but they aired it. I know the people who did it. Of course, I worked with them for years.
Okay, I think you get the gist of it. So yeah, another reason why I think people might leave is you thought you were joining up, didn't you, for freedom and justice and democracy, and then you work out that actually you're serving sort of a darker element, could we say? And the youngsters now, they're not stupid about this. They've got the internet. They've been talking about this stuff, probably for the last 10 years, unlike my generation when we joined the military. We were just told we were the good guys and they're all the bad guys, and the narrative really was pretty much that simple. So yes, right. I want to move on to just a few other things, and then I'll tie this in, like I say, at the end. This is apparently Greta Thunberg's boat has been hit by a drone bomb on her way to Gaza. Can't really play that, sorry, but you get the picture. Sorry, I should have done a trigger warning before that one, folks. But yeah, if that is true, I guess the question is, how can you strike an aid boat? I think we know why, don't we? Here we've got British Army veteran. He's being arrested because he caused someone anxiety by retweeting a flag meme.
He's not under arrest. You're not arresting. You were not arresting him at all. Absolutely. You're live on Facebook. You arrested him. You're arresting him. You're arresting all. You're leading.
Yes. Makes you wonder who the police work for, doesn't it? Oh yeah, we know who we know who they work for. Friends, I'm going to come on and I'm going to be looking at this. We're going to be looking at levels of enlightened consciousness using our the chart that we use a lot on this show, just to explain what people's going on. So very quickly, third dimension. That's people in the matrix, isn't it? That watch their precious 9 o'clock news, believe everything they hear, and go and conform like, conformists. Then you got your fourth dimension. That's the people that have woken up. They're like, buildings don't fall out the sky. Certainly not 3 of them. There's actually 4 if you include the Pentagon. that medical narrative was a load of shit, a load of horse shit, and now we're being fed another one. That's called waking up, isn't it? The problem is, and I actually did a meme on this, or a little poster thing. I'll grab it in a second. Is when you're awake, what do you do to change the world? You dip back into third dimension, don't you? And you think, let's the police should be doing a better job, without realizing, from a spiritual perspective, your police are all, they're never going to do that job that you think that they're going to do, along with the armed forces, because the frequencies that their brain is operating on is not a high enough level to operate at peace, love, kindness, and empathy, and do the right thing. They're referred to as order followers, and order followers and this is not a criticism, folks. I used to be this person. Order follower is down here, where you totally believe the narrative. You tend to be a bit sort of conservative, and you probably got a Ukraine flag in your Facebook sort of profile. What we're looking at, and this is why I say you can tell controlled opposition, because they will never talk about this. You tell me, in realistic terms, when anyone out there in the so-called freedom movement starts talking about energy, vibration, and frequency, new human consciousness, and how you attain it, not least of which through decoding Scripture. Have I got? Yeah, there we go. And I guess I get asked a lot, are the police going to turn? Are they going to be on the side of the public for once? And the military the same? And I've just explained it there for you folks. You can't just change someone's consciousness overnight. It's a process. This, as I'm sure if you're watching this, you've realised. Here's all part of the programming. This is Isaac's Army, named after the late Isaac Cappy, who was a big truth teller in Hollywood. Met a sad demise. Managed to, let's just say, be propelled off an overpass when he was exposing people, allegedly people in Hollywood for their crimes with children. This, if you're on X, this is, he's always worth a follow. I'll say he, it could be a she, couldn't it? But he's highlighting, sorry, what was the tweet? More satanic worship from the entertainment industry. Lady Gaga shows up for her master at the VMAs the other night. And the reason I'm highlighting this, folks, if this seems a bit random, it's all the same people doing all the same shit. They've done it for 8,000 years now, since they took control of the money supply, and they changed it into something called usury, which is lending money with interest rather than a simple system of exchange that it was originally. And they're behind your porn industry that's just corrupting our youth. They're behind all the big medical stuff and the subversion of not letting people ever understand the true meaning of well-being. So they're always, if we go back to our chart, they're always in victim consciousness down here, in a low vibrational state, far away from enlightenment, far away from what Sun Tzu says, knowing your enemy, but knowing yourself. And when you're in victim mode, it's never your fault when you get ill, is it? It's always someone else. And they love that, because there's no money in people like me that never get ill, because we understand how it works. If you want to learn about these, folks, there's a link below in my description box. A lot of people have asked me about diet. If you join my YouTube members, like become a channel member for $1.99 a month, all my life coaching catalog is on there, and I talk about all of this. But as I say, the Cabal, they don't want you understanding any of this. They want you down there in victim mode, right? And yeah, so another tentacle of the Cabal is Hollywood, isn't it? And the music industry. Remember, the Cabalists, they went west and they formed Hollywood when they started to get shit in New York, when they had their Nickelodeon cinemas, which originated with these machines where gentlemen would look down through this viewer and they could see a woman taking her clothes off. It was the precursor to what became the porn industry. And they started coming under competition in New York from companies like Edison, and Kodak, who made the film. Edison obviously making the bulbs for the projectors. And so they said, right, let's go out west and we'll form our own industry out there. At the same time as a certain Austrian painter kicked them all out of Germany. So you can see quite an interesting melting pot there. And they went out and they called their place Hollywood, named after the Hollywood, which is the wood that you make magic wands out of, because this is all about the occult. So when you're in London on the 13th, please be careful. There will be agitators there, and there will just be thick people. Sorry to say it like that, but that'll be causing trouble. And you know which headlines will get in the Daily Mail already, don't you? But the reason I mention it is the immigration situation in this country. It's all the same people. Although I feel like I'm probably preaching to the choir, aren't I? Let's have a look at this. Okay, so you could be forgiven, couldn't you, for thinking that's just a one-off, a bit of a wacky performance by Lady Gaga. But no, the music industry has a specific function. It's to keep you in a low vibrational state. That's why traditionally songs have always been about you being a loser in love. She left me on a Monday, she ran off with another chap on a Tuesday, I'm a big massive loser on a Wednesday, and all this, all these kind of lyrics, all designed to make you feel like a subhuman being if you don't attract the opposite sex. Whereas you're born a legend, you die a legend, you just got to realise it in between. And you do that by realising you're a divine manifestation. You're literally the microcosm of the macro. You are God, if you want to call it that. I call it universe, but in his own image. But these Babylonian psychopaths don't ever want you to know that. So they keep you, in their control program, making you think that, the only way to get kudos in life is by having a partner, and that you're a loser if you haven't got one, basically. The Hollywood, the other side of the other branch of the fork, that's designed for the hero story. Like, loser person comes across big challenge, like, climb a mountain or fight a war or run a marathon with one leg or something, and everyone's against them and says, you can't do it. Then they do it. Then it's a happy, happy ever after. Sorry, folks, I've been fasting for probably on and off for 7 days now, so I haven't eaten anything for 7 days, and I'm not, the words coming out of my mouth don't feel like like they're mine. But anyway, rather than again realizing, no, you don't need to do any of that. So if you want to run a marathon, yeah, go and run a marathon. I suggest you do. But please remember, even if you don't do that, if you don't do anything, if you don't join the military, you're a hero already, because you're a divine manifestation, and they're just hiding it from you. And this is some examples of what they do. This was the common look at the color. You see Lady Gaga's wearing black and red. Black and red's just symbolic of the occult, folks, or the devil. Devil is evil with a D. Good is God with an extra O, as Bill Donahue says. This was the bull or the Baal, because remember, these maniacs base their control system on the Old Testament. And in the Old Testament, when Moses, aka the pineal gland, was trying to lead the Israelites, i.e. the awakening ones, into the promised land, which is serotonin and DMT, that's your pineal and your pituitary gland, what did they do? They lost belief, didn't they? Why did they lose belief? Go to our chart. They lost, and this is allegory, folks. This didn't actually happen. I can honestly guarantee you there wasn't like a chap called Adam and a girl called Eve that had kids and this is what happened. Although if you want to believe that, that's up to you. But what Moses was doing, he was taking the fourth dimension. That is what the tribe of Judah is. It's an awakening. It means awakening one. And he's leading them across the Red Sea, which is an allegory for raising consciousness and overcoming emotion. That's the red. If you overcome your emotions and don't live by them, raise your consciousness, you enter this promised land where your endocrine glands start functioning in a way that they never have done before because you never knew about it, right? And in that story, of course, what happened is he's leading them into the promised land. He goes up on the mountain. Mountain represents spiritual, a place of spirit where you commune with the divine, which he did. He prayed, which means meditate. So he's meditating to commune with God. He comes back down to tell the Israelites, I've just had a chat with the big man. He's knocked up these tablets, got some rules there for how to live your life. This is just allegory, folks, for the pituitary gland, which controls your nervous system. So your pineal connects with the divine. That's where you get the information through photons of light, angles of light, aka angels. Your pineal gland then transmits that to your pituitary, and your pituitary then controls your nervous system and your actions. So when he comes back down, what have they done? They've all buggered off, melted down their jewelry, and they've made a golden calf. And so they're worshipping false idols, not realizing that God is in here, isn't he? This is what Moses is trying to, and this is just allegory, folks. It wasn't, you can believe it, but I don't think there was a guy called Moses. Moses is just the Old Testament Jesus. Both allegory for enlightenment. And what happened is he had his, awakening ones that were going into the new consciousness. They were starting to get it. They were starting to realize that no one is coming to rescue you. No one. No false idols, no, heroes out there. Only you can rescue yourself. And what happened? He turned his back for 1 minute. They lost faith and they went back down into the matrix. So that's why you see this symbolism with things like the bull, the red bull as well, the energy drink. Incidentally, on his forehead there, or somewhere on this bull, they wrote down the names of all the people killed in IRA bombings in Birmingham in the 70s, was it maybe early 80s, and it just does make you wonder. There we go. The crowd there at the game. Sorry, I will bring this back to music, folk. These were in the folder. I may as well talk about them. These represent the Israelites, and the light that they're holding up is to do with Kabbalah. I won't go into it today, but if you look up Kabbalah, divine sparks, you'll understand what this is all about. This is all in plain sight in front of the British public and on television, and how many people really get it. So symbolism in the music industry, black and red. There's the what's that? The pentagram, isn't it? Look, I can't remember this girl's name, but look, she's got the pentagram around her neck. She's wearing a black and red. She's doing a job. She signed her contract. You do what we say, and you'll get all the material wealth in the world. Taylor Swift, black and red. There's the Prince of Darkness himself. Pink. Madonna. I mean, at what point do you not watch this show and think, perhaps my kids shouldn't really be watching this shit, and perhaps this is someone that's been MK Ultra'd from a young age to fulfill this role, that's going to do absolutely anything to stay in popularity. Don't need to say anything, do I? Yeah, I told you, there's a reason Mick Jagger headlines at the Pyramid stage in Glastonbury when he's coming up for 80 years old or something. They know if they play the game, they'll get that next contract. So this is a bit about the Hollywood. So you see the symbol there. I just pulled this, folks, off the beginning of the Elvis film, because I recognize this symbol. This is code for, let's just say, people that desire to have sexual relationships with those that they shouldn't be having it with. You understand what I mean? And it's interesting that Tom Hanks is starred in this role. Was it Major Tom, Elvis's manager? Because there's been some accusations made about Tom. We'll come on to them. And there's the symbol there. This is from the FBI, who released all the symbols that are used by this very dark, depraved network to symbolize their lusts. You might have heard things like pizza and code words, hot dogs, and this kind of thing. This is another symbol. This one, it's got boy written on it. I'm not gonna say any more. And that's the symbol you can see that Hollywood have encoded. Remember, Hollywood was founded on debauchery. Who else we got here? Sam doing his bit for the Cabal. Do you need to say anything more about that image? Yeah, you just sat there with your kids watching the Super Bowl. It's half time. Then this guy comes on. He's got blood like all over his face, like he's just been practicing cannibalism or something. Perfectly normal. Nothing to see here, folks. This is Tom. I'm not going to play this video for obvious reasons, but you don't really need to say anymore. And the reason Tom had allegations leveled at him. In fact, there's an incredible documentary out there that was produced by a YouTuber. I can't remember the name of it. I'll go to Locals after this, folks. If I go to Locals there after this, I'll get that video up and I'll explain a bit more. Can't do it on the other platforms, unfortunately. But he put out this tweet. He went through this series of putting out these rather bizarre tweets of gloves just lying in the street. And then occasionally it'd be like the odd shoe and this sort of thing. And somebody realized in this tweet that if you typed, don't do this, folks, by the way, I'm absolutely not encouraging people. I'm just saying, in one of his tweets, there was a certain thing written on the... And if you type that into one of the search engines, not your mainstream, not your Google, I'm not even going to say the search engine. I'll talk more about this on Locals, but if you type that into a certain search engine and click images, now can you guess what was coming up? And it was at that point when he was called out that he just went off Twitter. Was it moved to Greece or somewhere, which someone alleges? I'm only saying this allegedly, folks. I'm obviously just a podcast host, but allegedly that they didn't have an extradition treaty to America. But okay, right. We said we come on to solutions. I just pulled up some scripture, folks, because you hear a lot, don't you, about people talking about giants and the Anunnaki and all this sort of stuff. And I don't profess to know like everything about it, but I do know that scripture is allegory, and if you get yourself a copy of this dictionary, you'll understand it too. And the reason I'm mentioning this with respect to what's going on in this great nation is, well, look at this. I pulled off all the names using AI of all the characters in, believe it was Old Testament, Genesis, Exodus. Yeah, it all looks like Old Testament. I pulled off all their ages, and then I did the what do you call it? Sorry, the numerology on it. Let me just see if I can get this a bit bigger for you. Is that a bit bigger? This is what they're hiding from you, folks. This is what you're not going to, very few people get what's going on. And you know that scripture is the code for understanding your metaphysical self, your endocrine system, for stepping out of the matrix and living an enlightened life, the one that you deserve, where you recognize it and you understand that you're this divine manifestation. And every story in the Bible is internal to you. It's not an external story. It's not a history book or a geography book. And what they did, these ancient scribes, who originated from, was it Persia? Someone can help me out here, which was now Iran. They were called the Magi. The Magi, the same three kings that in scripture visit the birth of Jesus, isn't it? And these were people that were highly advanced in understanding it all: astrotheology, numerology, the body's endocrine glands, all the stuff you're never going to get taught in school. And so what they did is they wrote these down in stories. And these stories always went a certain way. It appeared you're reading a bit of a bizarre story where this tribe's warring with that tribe and this guy's walking on water and all this weird stuff. But actually the words are symbolic. They mean something else when you decode them, along with the numbers. And the reason they did this is they didn't want any old person knowing this information, because it would be used against them, not just against them, but used against the people. And so they wrote this code down so that you and I, anywhere on the planet, at any time, in any language, can go, mountain. That's allegory for the divine. Fish. That's wisdom. Bread from heaven. That's your spiritual sustenance, and so on and so forth. So I pulled these off. I won't go through all of them, folks, but Adam here, look, lived 930 years. So there's a code going on here. 9 times 3 is 27. If you add the 2 and the 7, it's 9. Eber, 464 years. That comes up to 92. 9 twos are 18. Add the 1 and the 8, which you do in numerology, comes to 9. This one comes to 9. Seth, 912 years. 9 ones are 9. 9 twos are 18. Add the 1 and the 8, 9. And so it goes on for all these biblical characters. There's other ages here that come up to 6, 3 and 1. I won't cover them for today. Except to say that here, some of these names add up to 3. So 9 represents your consciousness, human consciousness. And you can have 2 forms of 9. I covered this the other day. I won't talk too much about it. You can have your 666, which is represented by carbon, by Earth, because 6 plus 6 plus 6 is 18. Add the 1 and the 8, that's 9. That's people of the mate who are living in the matrix. Then the people that have realized that their divine consciousness, that's your 144,000 that's referenced in Scripture, because 1 add 4 is 5 and 5 add 4 is 9. Do you see? So all these allegories in this Bible are all referencing, through the age of the characters, human consciousness. As my good friend Danny Ramplin, the DJ, says, raising the vibration, not allowing themselves to get suckered into a hate narrative, which is, you could argue, we're at danger of, falling into in this country. And where does the hate come from? The hate, I would say, comes from unresolved childhood trauma. When you have unresolved trauma, you project out onto other people the inner pain within you that you haven't healed yet, right? This number 3 in Scripture represents, I think it's completion. So there's Ishmael, and I just pulled up a few bits and pieces. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, bear with me. Yeah, and he's talking about the well in the wilderness. So 40, the number 40, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, 40 days in the wilderness. That represents when you've hit this 4th dimension, and a lot of you are going through this now, you get that confusion, don't you? Why don't my friends agree with me? Why is my family shun my back? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that, and that turmoil? And until you start learning to meditate and pinging that energy to your pineal and your pituitary, go into the right hemisphere of your brain, rather than becoming a left brain programmed, person, you become someone who understands peace, love, kindness, empathy. And most of all, like Sun Tzu said, you understand yourself, then you can understand what's going on in this, in this country at the moment. And that's why when you come out the wilderness, you then, in the Israelites' case, they enter the land of milk and honey. In here, this is talking about Ishmael, and it's saying here that him and his mother get saved by a well in the wilderness. Well is water. So you've got earth consciousness. Remember I said 666 is lowest stage of consciousness. People that are into their materialism, that thinking like buying a Ferrari is going to make them happy, or sniffing some more Coke or whatever it is. And earth, water, air, fire are the levels, the allegory used to describe enlightening consciousness. So whenever you cross water, whether that be the Red Sea, or in this case Ishmael, he's found a well in the desert, that means, the process of enlightenment. And yeah, that's about it, folks, I think. So I come to a bit of a premature end. What I'm going to do, before I go to locals, I'm just going to come and look at the comments to thank everyone for getting involved. Can I just say, could you like and subscribe, folks, please? That would be absolutely brilliant. You can like, subscribe, and click the notification bell. That would be awesome. I'm just going to play you this before I come onto the comments. It's my upcoming Challenge Everest. So I'm going to summit Mount Everest in April. And I want to shine a light for our veterans who, like me, are struggling when they come out of the armed forces, struggling with their mental health. And moreover, I want to start helping people make the link between childhood trauma and mental health problems in adult life.
Morning legends, I'm THRALL. I'm a former Royal Marines commando. Upon leaving the forces, ended up chronically mentally unwell, self-medicating, undiagnosed trauma, and homeless on the streets of Hong Kong. It was the toughest battle I ever had to fight, but without the support of the medical community, without self-help groups, I learned the answers to rebuild my life, go on to complete a series of extreme charity challenges to send a vital message out there for other veterans who are struggling. I've run the length of the United Kingdom, run across the Sahara Desert, rode across the Atlantic Ocean. Now I'm taking on my biggest challenge yet, climbing Mount Everest. If you can support me, friends, and continue to shine a light for our struggling veterans and let them know there is life after PTSD, I'll put a link below. Can spare a fiver? That's absolutely fine. And let's give our veterans the respect that they deserve. Much love.
Boom, yes. So if you can spare a fiver, folks, for my Mount Everest challenge, there's a link below. I'm going to be also trying to raise money for a veterans PTSD retreat. Just incidentally, folks, people, when you talk about the things I do, you get a lot of people probably quite well-meaning, but they don't get it. And you'll see that in comments, they just don't get it because they haven't been through the process. I was chronically mentally unwell. I mean chronically, to the point where my family were told they should put me in a mental health unit for the rest of my life. Chronically addicted to the world's most addictive drug, crystal meth. And utterly depressed. And when I got this, what I'm telling you, the day that I went, I got it. I'm in fucking victim mode, aren't I? I'm blaming everyone else. Only I can take charge of this. What happened is I literally let the light into my life. And as a result, I've gone on to live, work and travel in 85 countries across all 6 continents. I've done everything that I've ever wanted to do. Got my pilot's license, skydiving, expedition to the Antarctic Polar Circle, rode across the Atlantic this year with my buddy. And on top of that, I get it. Do you know what I'm saying? So I know people mean well, but they don't understand. I'm not saying this fucking bullshit that I just happened to read in a book and I'm like, I want to be like awake. So I think it's clever just to talk this shit. This actually happened. I went to a point when I went to the right hemisphere of my brain where I knew I had to be in service. So what I did is I did a fire walk, and I walked 30 meters or something across red hot coals to raise money so I could go and study at a school in Norway where they would send me out as a volunteer worker to work with street children in post-war Mozambique. When my family and friends got to hear it, they were like, what are you doing? What, you're working for free? No, you don't want to do that, Chris. Look, I'll get you a job with the UN, 30 grand a year, mate, and all this. And see, they didn't get it. They haven't gone east of Eden. They haven't cast their net to the right-hand side of the boat, have they? They didn't understand that I wasn't the same person that I was. You have this metaphysical, biological change that actually happens to your body because your endocrine glands start working in a different way. And that was it. And off the back of that, I live as an enlightened person. I don't live in the future. I couldn't care less about it. I don't live in the past. When I see people say, calling out all these stolen valor, military, like, have you not got something better to do with your time? My identity, even though I might mention it on occasions, doesn't lie in a career that I chose when I was 18 years old and I was a very damaged young man. My identity, if anything, primarily is from the divine, but secondly, it's being in service. It's trying to be a good dad, which is, and when you walk this path, then you see what makes you a bad one, don't you? Because you have to reflect on your treatment in life and your sort of history. So when I talk about this, folks, it's not like I've read it in a book and it's like I've physically lived this, and you're not going to get this in church. Church is there to keep you in a low vibrational state. Jesus never said go and build a church, did he? He pointed outside and said that's your church, So I just thought I'd say that. Could we get some likes and subscribe, folks? We got a lot of people watching. It would. Sorry, I haven't been the most coherent today. I was up at 3:00 this morning. I started work. And I went and ran around the block or walked around the block. And I haven't eaten for 7 days. I'm on a water fast, so I'm a bit lightheaded. But if you can like and subscribe, that would be absolutely awesome. Right, okay, in no particular order. Gaza gets it. Thank you, mate. Okay. Colonel Tom Parker, Joy gets it. And also, Joy, and can see you got the little Viking symbol next to your name. Thank you for being a channel member. That means a lot. I couldn't do this without people like you. Renaissance, thank you for your concern, but it's going to be absolutely fine. It's going to be legendary. And let's not be putting out dark energy. Jay, thank you so much for joining the channel as a member. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Jason. Really appreciate that. Susie, I saw that. I haven't got round to thanking you, darling, but I saw your very generous donation for Everest. Really appreciated. And thank you for being a channel member as well. Yes, Blue Skies, great track, isn't it? Yes, folks, like I say, Tommy's been on my podcast. This isn't a knock at anyone that is seeing what's going on. I'm not saying we shouldn't take action. I'm saying the complete opposite. Like, where the fuck has everybody been? This has been happening since 1947 was when the first boat of uninvited immigrants arrived here. Although that the invited bit, if you know the colonial, what was it, the paper that was passed through government, it gets a bit complicated. But yeah, this has been going on a long time. The absolute destruction of your community, your culture, the division of the people, the putting you in the home cocoon, working from home, drinking your bloody, whiskey out of a cup of tea mug in your Zoom meetings, domestic violence going up, kids getting abused, all that kind of stuff that we saw during the medical nonsense. This is it's good job people are starting to take note. But if it's not handled well, and if people don't start talking up about the energy, vibration and frequency, I showed you how important it is. It's in every single age or thereabouts is a reference to raising your consciousness, the number 9. If you want more on that, watch the last video that I did. What else have we got here? What's that? What's Bill saying? Most are there for our country, as our leaders are not there for us. Why should they have to fight their wars and not? Yeah, well, this is the thing, isn't it? I think a lot of people are questioning now what are our military, police and armed forces really being used for? And this is no slight of them as individuals. There we go. Random member, you're very welcome. Yep, there's a lot of symbolism in society, obviously. Some stuff here that's way over my head. And yeah, there we go. Right, my lovelies, look, let's go over to locals. I think I mentioned everything. All I'll say is, as a finish, just massive thank you to everyone that supports us. Locals is free, folks, but some people over there pay because they appreciate the work that I do. And I do videos specifically for them at times. This video, just go over to locals. If it says pay there, you don't have to do that. You got to click past that. But thank you to everyone that supports me on locals or Patreon for $1.99 a month, or just become a channel member. It's $1.99 a month, folks. You get free VIP access to any of the events I hold in the year, which is like my Christmas party or discount on a bushcraft weekend. You get to join our monthly Zoom meeting where we get together and I do a bit of life coaching and we put the world to rights and a lot of other stuff. Okay, I'm losing my voice. I'm out of here. Please like and subscribe. Much love. Legends.